What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop podcast. I am your host, Projektitachi, joined by my good friend co-host Warnurse, and we're just gonna get into the nitty-gritty this week because some not so surprising, but at the same time surprising news broke a few days ago, and I gotta say, I'm not as excited about it as I was a few years ago.
There's nothing to really be excited about.
Yeah. For those who do not know what's going on, but most of you probably do, Sony has announced the launch of the PS5 Pro, and to many that may not seem like a big surprise. However, with a lot of the action Sony has been taking has been extremely questionable. So I'm going to say for this episode, for anyone who thought we were just against purely Microsoft and Xbox, you're going to find out it goes across the board. If you make us what we think is a stupid move, we're just going to call a spade, and everyone knows, I like Sony, you like Sony. I actually started with Microsoft before I got a PlayStation, so I did used to like Microsoft, so I've been across the whole spectrum. But right now Sony's pulling a Microsoft, in my opinion. And the PS5 Pro, if it was coming out next year, I probably would be like, okay, maybe that's not so bad.
It's just as bad.
But yeah.
Like, okay, even if the Xbox Series S wasn't a piece of garbage, it came out not too far off after the more recent Xbox came out. The PlayStation 5 came out, and now all of a sudden here, like years later, now we have a Pro. It just, not only is it kind of late to the game, which is understandable as far as the issue they had with like parts and distribution and stuff, especially during COVID. But what is the Pro going to give me for $700 and no disc drive that my PlayStation 5? Hey baby, how you doing? Look at it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. With the disc drive.
Yeah.
Is over there chilling, looking nice, looking sexy.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Pro going to do for me?
So here's the thing, right? And this bothered me so much. For the first time, I literally had to write my own notes so I wouldn't forget some of these things.
You wrote pros and cons.
I went down the pros and cons. I was so annoyed by this. First, they go and they announce it, and they're like, yeah, it's coming out, this year. Like, okay, we've only got a few months left in the year, and you're dropping this bombshell on us. Like, bam, we're getting a Pro. Now, for people who I know, they're very specific probably, and they're probably looking at the timeline like, oh, if you looked at the timeline of the PS4, I already did that. They are releasing this Pro a year later than they did the PS4 Pro. Now, pop quiz, and this is what really started irritating me, and I was kind of like, $700, you don't give a disk drive, you don't even give a stand that came with your PS5, you're selling the stand separately. What?
It almost feels like an FU.
It really does. It honestly really does.
Considering too that they screwed over the Portal, they screwed everyone with the VR2, which I don't even understand, because the VR, or the VR1, I guess, is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's not selling, I think, as well as they had hoped.
Yeah,
but that's also their fault for not having as many options to be like games that would be compatible, and like, don't put something like that out and don't have that many games that are really compatible with it.
Yeah. I think what is happening is, the first thing I want to cover is, this is only making me feel that what Phil Spencer said about 2027, more leaning towards Xbox bowing out in 2020 and 2027. Like, I think Xbox will cease to be, it'll probably just become Microsoft Gaming or something, because they're making such a push into the digital ecosystem. They want all their games to be digital. They're backing out of the physical because they can't compete anymore with Nintendo. They can't compete anymore with Sony. And the proof of this is just how bold Sony is being right now. That they're Sony's pushing harder into the hardware ecosystem. They're trying to dominate that market. And they've done so much with hardware since the PS5 came out. And then they do nothing. They put no software on it. So just to show how rapidly it's changed, the PS3 launched in 2006. 7 years later, that's when we got the PS4 in 2013. And then the PS4 Pro launched 3 years later, 2016. Okay, so this time they gave us 4 years. That's pretty much due to COVID. So they're still on their normal timeline for that. The problem with this is the Pro came out for the PS4 around the time 4K TVs were becoming the standard in households. We were getting away from the 1080p and everyone was starting to get a 4K TV. So it made sense because the games were actually surpassing the hardware.
Well, and the PS4 Pro wasn't like, it was a pretty fair price.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it was $399.
Yeah, it was only like $100 more. It was only like $100 more.
It was more compatible with, like you just said, with the newer model televisions coming out and stuff. Because there was a huge change in that, like just like 2 or 3 years, there was a massive change in like TV format.
Yeah.
And the type of TVs people were buying.
Yeah. And it made sense because developers were actually saying, hey, our game is actually going beyond your hardware. We need more to work with. And then the Pro came out and they were like, this works. Our games can work with this.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the PS4 actually came with the RBG. You had to like go and get the HDMI cable separately.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly. No, actually, I think they did give you an HDMI cable.
Because I didn't have the Pro. I bought like the PS4 at launch. I'm pretty sure it came with the RBG connections. And I remember like having to go out and buy an HDMI cable, and then I was like, oh, this looks better. And then I tried to play The Legend of the Dragoon with the HDMI cable, and the format, it wouldn't work. Yeah. Because the game at the time wasn't formatted for HDMI like it is now.
Yeah. So I'm glad you also mentioned the Portal. I want to get on something about that too. Do you remember when the Vita launched? You don't have to remember specific year, but do you remember which console generation between the PS3 and the PS4 the Vita launched for?
I thought it was before the PS3, like towards the end of PS2. That's what I remember. But
so that's the PSP.
PSP, okay.
The Vita launched at the tail end of the PS3 before the PS4. Now, here's the key thing. If you're wondering why am I bringing this up, the Vita launched in 2011, and it still had compatibility for the PS3 and 4, even though it came out 2 years before the PS4 even launched. You could remote play with it. You could connect to it. They were giving support for a console that had already come and gone, and their new console on a handheld that landed somewhere in the middle. The Portal, a $200 piece of hardware, another piece of hardware they've launched, doesn't even support backwards remote compatibility with your PS4. It's specifically for your PS5, of which, yes, if you have PS4 games on it, then they're like, okay, yeah, that's how you can play your PS4 games, but we're not having backwards compatible remote play for your PS4.
That doesn't make any sense to me either.
No, it doesn't, because I'm like, you had an entire handheld that supported PS3 remote play, which everyone remembers was atrocious, but you still had the support for it. And then you updated it to have the support for your PS4 2 years later, dated hardware.
This is why. This right here is why just a little side note. The Steam Deck is about to fucking change this shit, because you better believe PlayStation and Xbox are not even about to come close to the competition with the Steam Deck. It's blowing things out of the water. And the only thing preventing it from being more popular is the price tag.
It's the price tag.
The price tag, because I have heard nothing but amazing reviews. I'm currently getting ready to buy my own. So they're either going to need to step their game up or move aside, because it doesn't look like the PC side for Steam, like they're not having problems. They're doing it. The price tag's a little steep, but they're making it worth it.
Mm. Yeah, you're literally getting a handheld PC that's not a laptop.
And you can continue progress.
You can continue progress. You can download games directly onto it. And like I was telling you, I said for you, it's a better investment, because then you're like, you want to play your PC games? Cool. You want to play your PS5 remotely? Cool.
You can have up to, I think, 5 accounts too.
Yeah.
So I can actually share my Steam account to 2 other like Steam Decks and give them to like my kids or something.
Yep.
And they can play too.
Yeah.
So Sony has no excuse.
Sony has no competition right now. And that's the problem.
Yeah. Yep.
They have no competition right now. And we're finally seeing what they've been wanting to do. And they're doing it all during this current gen of console. Because, okay, the PS5 Pro, it gives you, for me, the only appealing thing is the memory. Which isn't going to matter, because all Activision is going to turn around and do is go, more memory? I guess we can make Call of Duty even bigger now.
What's 2
terabyte.
2?
2 terabyte. Which when you think about it, the Pro launched with bigger memory, and it starts off great. But what happens when consoles release with bigger memory? The games get bigger as well, because they're all competing for your space.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to like I hear the arguments a lot, like, oh, well, games are getting more graphically inclined and yada yada yada, and that is somewhat true. But when you look at a game like Call of Duty, the graphics are really good.
Mm-hmm.
It plays pretty well online, assuming you have decent internet. Yet, how many gigabytes is that damn game now? Every time there's a new update, it just adds. Yeah, it's insane. And then you have massive open world games like Black Myth or Elden Ring or Final Fantasy.
The Witcher.
Games that maybe, I think Wukong broke 100.
Wukong broke 100.
Yeah. I was surprised, but the game is gorgeous. But it barely broke 100. Elden Ring, I think the base game is like 60 gigs or something, and then that with the the DLC, I think it is about 100 altogether.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason that games that are not massive open world fantasy should be more than 100 or so gigabytes. That's just poor optimization right there.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
And everyone knows that Activision does it with Call of Duty, because if you use Call of Duty, you play a bunch of Call of Duties, you don't delete your Call of Duties, you're not going to have room to play other games. That's how they keep you playing the game. And that's why they get away with all the crap they get away with, because you don't have space for any other games. More people are inclined. Your average come home from normal work to sit down to just have a gaming session player is going to be playing Call of Duty.
Yeah,
they're going to be
people
playing 2K.
Shouldn't think that that's not possible, or that that's not a thing, because that's marketing. Marketing is meant to manipulate you without you realizing it into a corner to make you do certain things to the benefit of that company.
Yep. So another feature they have, and I was like, who is doing this? No one. I don't like that these companies are trying to make video games a rich man's game now. 8K compatibility. Who is playing in 8K right now?
Last I looked, an 8K HDR TV was not only something that you're not going to go to Target and buy that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I think Best Buy, some of the stores sell them in the store, but usually it's like an online thing or a specific
Amazon.
location. Like certain locations will have them.
Yeah.
You got me fucked up. You think I'm buying a big ass TV of any kind of expensive electronic on Amazon to be delivered to me.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the videos of kicking the damn box.
You're probably not going to get it. You're lucky if the Amazon driver doesn't keep it for themselves. Then you'll go be lucky if a Porsche
I don't know if you've
doesn't
seen the
take
price
it.
tags for those things, but they're insane.
Up to $6,000.
Yeah, they're wild.
Up to $6,000. That's for Samsung.
And like that makes sense to me. Like if you have a little extra fuck you money and you want to have like a family theater room, that's when that kind of thing makes sense. But like streamers aren't even doing that. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm glad you brought that up because that's something else I keep trying to stress to people. And there's a few creators who are open and honest about it. Dino, who's a big Instagrammer and TikToker, the ultimate nerd, he was open and honest about it. And people keep asking, like, dude, what's your job, man? Like, how are you buying all this stuff? And he was like, dude, I don't buy any of this. He's like, it literally just shows up at my door. The companies pay me and give me this stuff to promote to you. And I'm like, I wish people would understand that a lot of these elaborate setups you see, depending on what that person does or did, they're not having to pay for that stuff. It's getting delivered and they're just marketing it to you. So a lot of people are going, oh, well, all you got to do is just get your money right. And yeah, you could. But honestly, to be fiscally responsible, buying an 8K TV right now just makes no sense to me.
Buying
Unless
an 8K TV is incredibly dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is very dumb.
And I'm like, it's not a viable thing. And what is happening is Sony's like, oh, we're going to support 8K to kind of get people to start thinking maybe I should get an 8K TV to see the difference. Let's be completely honest. And I want you guys to be completely honest. How many of you actually go into your TV settings when you sit down to play a game? You actually put it in gaming mode. You adjust your lights.
I hope not, because I'll tell you, gaming mode is ass.
It is terrible lighting.
You know what I do?
It's supposed to be better for your eyes.
I put my TV on vivid. And then I lower the brightness and contrast a hair so it doesn't, because long term it can cause damage to the TV if it's like just constantly bright and shit. But gaming mode is ass. It's supposed to reduce latency. It does quite the opposite. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up the way it looks though, because it's kind of like with monitors, right? Like when you get from like 100 to 120 FPS. You can see a difference from 60. Like you double that 60 to 120 or so, you can see a difference it's not a difference in the graphics. It's a difference in the smoothness of everything. Like the grass and the wind blowing the grass, and it just looks more, I don't want to say realistic, but more natural in the way it's blowing. That's what you get at FPS. But anything past, I'd argue, me personally, the typical 144 that gamers like to 144. Anything past that, like you don't really see a big difference, if any, because our eyes can't perceive that. Yep. I have a Sony 4K HDR TV. I got it years ago on sale after I sold my house. Gorgeous TV. I've seen other TVs that boast being better. I've seen one TV. I think it was I think they said it was a 6K TV. I didn't think that was a thing. But over at Best Buy, you can't tell a difference between all these TVs.
No. And
they also, a lot of people don't know this, when you go in there and they have the TVs like on show,
there's specific settings.
It's not just the settings. This is something else people don't realize or know. Those are very specific background screens or very specific scenes that they put on there that already look very good because they're made to look good under certain settings to give you the perception of a television that you're going to buy that's going to look that good, and it's not going to look that good. It's going to look good, but it's not going to
look like it did on the floor. And you also got to consider the lighting. There's a reason they position TVs in certain spots.
Right.
The lighting of the store.
Marketing. Don't fall for all this stuff. Like, you see a TV you like, you get it, but don't be dumb.
Yeah, but Sony's pushing 8K. The Pro's coming out.
TV is so wild.
Jesus. Half the people aren't going to see that 8K. They're not going to get to experience that 8K. So that's a feature that's going completely unrecognized. Their TVs are not going to be able to use half the new features. It's going to say your TV is not compatible. So they're just getting another console that's doing already what their PS5 is doing. My other issue is they haven't done anything really with the PS5. I just want to go down the list of some of the things. First, like you mentioned earlier, they pretty much have abandoned the VR2, which was already a $600 piece of hardware. I love VR. I invested in both versions of the VR.
I will say that I don't know about. I didn't own I used other people's VRs. That's the experience I have with them. But it is impressive. It's
one of the best headsets
realistic.
Out there. Yeah, it's one of the best headsets out there. I can't exactly say affordable anymore, but it's one of the best VR headsets out on the market right now. But I guess because it didn't sell out, Sony decided they were going to pull funding from it, and I don't know where they're putting the money. So $600 piece of hardware that they pretty much have just forgotten. Then they sell the $200 portal that has the potential. It has onboard software. It has the potential to be a remote player, not just for your PS5, but also your PS4. And they could allow it if they had more onboard memory, but I'm sure that they can create, they have cloud saving, so they could have turned it into a cloud gaming device as well. So it could be a remote player and a cloud gaming device.
Portal just feels lazy.
It's obvious that they still want to be in the handheld market, despite saying they don't want to. They do, but they don't want to give everything in one. They don't want to do a Vita again, because then they'd actually have to produce more product for it. But they still want to be in the handheld market in some way. So they said, where's the middle ground we can go in on there? Oh, let's just create a remote player, but let's only limit it to the PS5 so that we make sure we keep selling out on the PS5. Because if we allow it to be for the PS4, people will just buy the remote player, but not buy a PS5.
Well, I was actually going to say there are still people trying to get a hold of a PlayStation, which is a little strange to me because you can get them now. It's not like before where you had to be on a waiting list. Like you can go into a store and just buy one now. Maybe some states and areas, and maybe some other countries are different, but from what I've seen, you can pretty much buy one now. So my thought is maybe this Pro would be a good opportunity for people who couldn't get one, and now with this releasing, like, oh, I can get one, but still $700. No disk drive and doesn't even have a stand. Like, it's just bizarre to me. I mean, are the specs even that much better?
They are saying they are. They're pretty much trying to compete with PC consoles who finally get the ability to get proper ray tracing. The processor is supposed to be better. It seems like the Pro is supposed to be what they had to downgrade the PS5 from because of the whole chip war, and Microsoft had locked down all the chips, and they actually did have to redo the parts in the PS5. So I'm guessing,
I would hope that's not their argument, because I don't say this in a way to say PC is better. So hear me out when I say this, okay? Sony or any of the consoles are never going to compete with the PC as far as power and specs go, no matter how hard they try. And there's a technical reason for this. Size. They can be as technologically advanced as they want, but you can only do so much in a small space compared to being able to use the same technology in a much larger case with proper heating. That's my point. That's why you won't be able to compete.
They don't seem to have a problem constantly getting bigger.
Yeah.
So I think
with that said, at some point it's like, well, why not just get a PC?
Yeah.
Because you'll be spending the same amount of money.
At this point, that is a very valid argument. If they're charging $700, what is happening is, while PC is better in the long term, because when you're ready, you can upgrade it. The issue is number one, nostalgia. A lot of people got into gaming via console.
Right.
Before they got into PC. For me, I have a gaming PC. I also have consoles, but I prefer console over PC because it's what I grew up with. I remember the classic days of friends come over, we all sat down at a console and we played our games. So the nostalgia in me makes me
that's
going to
change when you want your disc drive, and then none of the consoles have any disc drive, and your only
now that
option
something
is
like the Pro
a
comes
PC
around
that you get to choose whether or not you have a disc drive.
Yeah, now that the Pro's coming around and saying, "Hey, we're not going to have a disc drive," even I have to go, okay.
Yep. On top of the Steam Deck. The PC market right now, Steam is so bold right now with that shit. I don't think people understand how big of a deal the success of the Steam Deck is, on top of the prices of console and PC and all the technicalities and compatibilities and all that stuff.
The Steam Deck,
everything that comes with a PC versus console.
The Steam Deck also removes the issue that players like me had of, well, if I want to play my PC game, I got to be at my desk. I got to be.
Yep, that's your complaint a lot.
Yeah, that was my complaint. I could not stand, because when I sit down at my computer, like how we're doing this podcast, for me, my computer was work. My computer was studying, and I was like, I couldn't dedicate a computer to gaming. It was too distracting for me. I was like, oh man, if I'm at my computer, I might as well be doing work. But the Steam Deck removes that issue, because it's like,
yep,
I can be a PC gamer and not be sitting at my PC.
You know what else you can do with the Steam Deck? I thought this was pretty cool. They didn't have to allow this. I can take my Steam Deck and I can go to any television or other monitor
and hook it up
and use whatever compatible controller and just sit there and play
your
just
PC games
like
on your
a
TV
console.
Now. Yeah, it's a portable console. Yeah. So I definitely will be trying to save up to invest in one now, which was originally going to be my plan. And it's cheaper. Yeah. So I was like, that was going to be my plan, but I vied for the portal because I do want to be able to play my PS5 anywhere. And I didn't think at first I was going to use it as much as I do. And I do use it. I'm like, no, I'm going to get my $200 worth. And I do use it. But I probably, when I get my Steam Deck, I'm going to probably use that even more. But other things that Sony has been releasing, they released their $200 earbuds.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, you didn't know that came out with the portal. There's $200 earbuds.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Like Beats, but allegedly better, because I like my Beats, man.
No, they're little earbuds. They're not full headphones. They're little earbuds,
like the ones people have like for their AirPods.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
I hate those goddamn things, dude. Sorry for
they were designed to be kind of a companion to the portal.
Am I the only one that does not? I do not like headphones like that. They fall out of your ear. There's like a little gust, and like it just fucking falls out. Like I don't like that. Like if I want to go on a run, those aren't the headphones. I see people walk around like, are y'all androids? Am I human and y'all are all androids? Because ain't no way that those are just sitting upside your head and not falling out. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Without the little rubber piece, it's just straight plastic in your ear. Your ears don't hurt. Why are you wearing those?
Well, Sony released $200 versions of those and then $150 Elite headset. Now, the thing I want to point out is they released a ton of hardware for the PS5, a ton. You can probably count on one hand all the hardware they released during the PS4. And I know you guys are probably thinking, oh, I promise you what you're probably thinking is a third-party accessory that Sony put their license on. Because I'm like, I had to think about it too. I was like, oh, they had the Projektitachi Pro. No, that was Projektitachi Pro. And then the steering wheel that everyone makes fun of me. But look, I don't name it, but the Thrustmaster steering wheel. Look, they named their company Thrustmaster. I don't know what to tell you. They're popular. But that was another company, and Sony just let it set and said, you know what, we like it, license it. But Sony for the PS5 has been putting out all these things, but they're not putting out software for these things. they're releasing all of this hardware and they're not doing anything with it. And that is so confusing.
It's a lot different than with the PS3 and 4 because they were releasing everything you needed and they were all good pieces of equipment too.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, here's the item, but we're not going to upgrade it or give you any software. Really,
we're not giving you anything to use on your.
As a matter of fact, it's exactly
item.
the same as the last generation, but it's not compatible.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
And then the $60 adapter you need to play your VR1 games on your VR2. So it's kind of like, yeah, you could, but you're going to have to pay us for it. Why didn't you just make that a natural backwards compatibility? I don't understand. I've never will understand Sony's issue with backwards compatibility. Do they think that no one is going to buy the new thing?
You know what? They're kind of reminding me of Nintendo a little bit with some of this shit. Only
is
Nintendo
like a Japanese
is like
company thing.
Being as bad as Nintendo about backwards compatibility and having older games available.
Yeah, Nintendo, they just love straight up removing them. They're just like, no, we will never re-release it and have no plans of doing so in the future. Why? Why not?
Nintendo is more invasive, and they're more invasive than like when you know how like we make jokes like, oh, the FBI guy's listening. Like Nintendo's worse.
They're so yeah. I also think Sony is gearing up for a big purchase, and they are willing to throw anything at the consumer to make the money for whatever they plan to buy next. They can't do it on the digital front because Microsoft pretty much is trying to dominate that. So they're using the hardware. They've shoved Microsoft out of the hardware. Nintendo has always been in their own lane. So now Sony's like, cool, we got rid of everybody else. Now we can just do this. And here's the sad part. They're going to sell out. We know they're going to sell out. Everyone is like, oh my gosh, it's $700. It's going to sell out. I promise you, as soon as it launches, it'll be sold out. People are going to buy it. They know this. We know this. I don't know where people are going to get the money, but it's going to sell out.
Is the PS5 Pro going to be the same size?
Well, it shouldn't be without a disk drive.
Physically,
it'll probably be the same size as the Slim,
like a little square section.
Yeah,
that's probably where they put the extra 1 terabyte.
Yeah, it's probably about the same size as the diskless PS5. Which, by the way, how does everyone who bought a diskless PS5 feel right now?
No. I have another question. Which one of y'all bought the 5-disc changer PS5? Because that was an option.
That was a thing.
No, yeah, that was an option, and it was like $1,050 or something. I'm just really curious.
They were basically like, "Oh, you want to play physical copies of the game? You're going to pay us $1,000 to not have to get up and switch them."
It's almost like mockery. It's like, here you go. You want one? Here's two. Here's three. Here's three. Like just pissy that you even wanted.
I don't understand.
Is it enough for you? I just thought it was funny. 5.
Can someone from Microsoft or Sony please explain your issues with gamers wanting physical copies of games?
Because they don't want you to collect anymore, to contain value and increase that value down the road and then sell their shit for more money.
Yeah, that's 100. I have to 100% agree because I'm like, they are so adamant and they're using technological advance as the excuse. I'm like, there will never be an era where a physical copy would be frowned on.
Because it actually costs, it's not cheap to transfer game data to a disk drive in a proper format that works. If it doesn't exist anymore, where are we justifying $70?
That will always be my argument. If I am only getting licensed only to me and not even owning it, a digital copy of a game for $70, I can't even leave that behind. I can't trade it in for value. If my account one day goes poof, if Sony suddenly closes shop, all that money, all that, gone, just gone.
The only digital games that I don't mind is actually from Steam, but there's a reason for that. When you buy digital games from Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, eventually there's going to be a new console, and that new console is probably not going to be back where eventually you're going to lose the game. It's not going to be there anymore. Or you'll have to rent it because you lost access because now you have a PS6, let's say, and we don't have PS5 games yet on here, but we'll get them on the store eventually, and then you can, just like PS1, 2, and 3. It cycles. You're going to lose all those games eventually. You're not going to have them anymore. With Steam, it's a little different. I don't have to, I don't have to worry about like a new Steam. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's why I can still play games from 2006 and shit. So, and that's the only reason I'm okay with digital gaming in on that front.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's wild right now with what Sony's got going on. I don't understand
and they're not
it.
looking too good after their Concord flop because look, I know business deals don't, when you make deals with companies that show promise and that sound good, maybe they made a great presentation, everything looked like it was going to go well, and it's not always the company's fault that the company they're working with falls through, but $100 million for a game to turn out like that, it did not make Sony look good. And now this other shit that's going on.
I'm going to simply say, and I'm not going to dive too, deep into it. I will say the gamers have been very clear on what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is tired of battle royals. They're very saturated. A lot of people who were into them are starting to get away from them because people take them too seriously. They're not fun anymore.
No, they're not.
Hero shooters, they're saturated. They're not fun anymore.
What's fun is multiplayer adventure type games with friends.
Yeah. Not everyone wants to be high strung, high stress when they come in to sit down and play a game. And not everyone wants a politically motivated game either. Just going to say that, like, we play video games to get away from that.
Well, neither here nor there, I guess, but in like Hollywood movies, TV shows, that shit'll fly. We like whatever. Like there's enough masses, but in the gaming community, there's some things you cannot force down the gaming community's throat. And any politically motivated things is one of them.
Yeah.
Not that they don't exist in games, but to an extent.
Yeah. If it makes sense, in my opinion, to the story, to the lore, go for it. But if you're doing it just to try to appeal to a very particular, very, very particular group to, I guess, avoid getting canceled, only to have your game canceled by the actual gamers, yeah, you should probably take a hint.
Yeah, so I think Sony just this past few weeks just hasn't been looking too good. It's like one stupid thing after another.
Yeah,
and it's not like I think that the Pro is necessarily really stupid itself. We all knew that they were going to come out with a Slim and a Pro like they usually do.
They could have waited. They could have waited because we haven't. Next year is the official halfway mark in the life cycle of the PS5, but they haven't even. The developers are still trying to make games for the PS5, and Sony's just moving that train along. They're like, all right, we got the PS5 out. Okay, cool. Now we got and cool. And they're just moving the hardware train. And the devs are like, we haven't even made a game for it. Half your player base is just now getting your PS5 normal. What are you doing?
Yeah, and I think again with the VR, it's not as much the price tag that was an issue as the lack of games that could be used on them. If you're going to spend that much on the VR, which it is worth it, it's hard to justify when there's so few games that you can play on it.
Yeah, I'm like,
even if they do look amazing and are fun.
They could have put the Pro off for like another 2 years and just focused on building up the library of the 5. build up the library, and then once developers are like, hey, the technology's changing, our games are getting beyond the PS5, then they can be like, cool, we've been working on the Pro anyway.
Yeah, and I know it seems like every 7-8 years is when we get a new console, but I can't imagine games getting much more graphically intense that in another 4 years we're going to need a PS6 or whatever the next PlayStation version is. You know, I have you seen the things online with the Unreal Engine 5 or is it 6? The one with like the games that actually look like real life.
Yeah, running on the Unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are games that they're being made, but they're not being made in a way that we're about to go to the store and all play this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are like projects to show you what it's capable of, what the Unreal Engine is capable of. Not so unless we reach that point, I really don't see a reason for another console to come out. Because games already look good. Even a shitty game looks good.
I don't know. It's a greed fest right now. You got Microsoft competing for the digital ecosystem, Sony with no competitors competing for the hardware space.
Hold up. Nintendo's been quiet.
Too quiet.
Been a little quiet lately.
Nintendo, the holiday season is gearing up.
Or something? I thought they bought or was it a partnership with SoftBank? They didn't buy SoftBank.
A couple of years ago, they locked down a partnership with a mobile company.
Yeah.
To get into the mobile market. But
I heard a whole lot of sense. Some teasers about a Switch 2, maybe
Switch Pro.
Maybe not. Switch Pro.
Yeah, they got a Switch Pro coming out, so they're going to be quiet until that.
But the Switch Pro is not going to be. It's just what the PS5 Pro is for the PS5. It's not.
Yeah, it's not the Switch 2.
There's no reason for me to get one then.
Yeah. So, I think that drops next year. So we'll be seeing another console. And that's probably why Sony's dropping the Pro right now, because they want to sell out before the Switch 2 comes and takes everyone's money. Or Pro. Whatever. Everyone's dropping a Pro console, except Microsoft. Which for once, Microsoft...
I thought that's what their Series XS was supposed to be. It was like their version of a...
I guess.
They got like 19 fucking versions of the same console. I don't even know what the hell's happening over there anymore.
Yeah, Series X and yeah, you're probably right. Maybe it was. Well, they did it way too early because
no, math went out the door. They're like Xbox 360, Xbox One, like yeah. Xbox. Now we're on the fucking alphabet, like bro. And they've come out with several versions of the same Xbox, different sizes. What are they doing?
What are any of them doing? What is Sony doing? What is Microsoft doing? It doesn't even
have a handheld. Thank God. You know how ugly that thing would be?
But they're talking about it.
Oh, they need to stop. I'll stop them right now.
Microsoft, I got to say, Microsoft, don't enter the handheld market because with the Steam Deck already out, it would be redundant.
It would
be totally redundant.
Imagine because in my head, I'm picturing like a, do you remember what the original Xbox looked like?
Yeah.
And you remember there was a version of it that was like,
yeah,
green see-through kind of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing, like a shitty Xbox handheld. Like just an ugly kind of see-through slime green piece of shit.
I like how
with enough gigabytes for Call of Duty and that's it.
I like how Sony causing problems still leads us to Microsoft.
I fucking hate them. After all, I used to love them.
That's like
and now Sony's pissing me off, and then Nintendo's over there. Like I don't even get mad at Nintendo because we all know Nintendo is that tattletale in class that fucking told on everybody and made straight A's and never got in trouble. So you could fucking do anything.
Yep,
that is Nintendo, and I'm sick of it.
Nintendo has seniority behind them.
I have love for PC because PC's not pissing me off right now.
Because technically, PC is just whoever. PC is in a very unique space because PC is not the operating software, it's the equipment. So there's no one who technically owns PC, which is why they can just cruise along, because you can buy your case from this place, you can get your graphics card from this place, you get your, you know, your Intel or your RAD processor. You build it from all these different parts, so it's not like I have to go and get a PlayStation from Sony, an Xbox from Microsoft.
You know, that's why Steam has so many damn sales that are insanely good.
Yeah,
they're like, you worked pretty hard on that thing, didn't you?
Yeah,
spend a little money.
You spent a little
sale
money
for you because we know you're broke now.
Yeah, you spent $4,000 on your PC. You know what? 50% off your games. We got you. We understand. But yeah, it's a hot mess right now. I am very, very disappointed in Sony. I had even put on threads. I was like, I can't defend this, and then someone responded, was like, "Well, you really can't defend a $1 billion company because they're not your homie." And I was like, "No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They are not our homie, but we also can't pretend that you don't try to find a logical reason behind your favorite brands on what they're doing."
Well, you want to have you're buying from them for a reason.
Yeah. And you want to be able to justify,
not because you're just stuck with their shit and that's all you have. Xbox.
But yeah, we're only 4 years in to the PS5 life. We're getting a $700 Pro. It's gonna sell out. And I'm sure people please, when you start seeing these content creators doing their unboxing, I bought it because you didn't have to. They didn't buy it. They didn't buy it. Don't believe it. They got it sent to them. So you go and buy it. You are paying for theirs in spades.
How shitty do you have to be to like take a video of yourself opening something really extravagant and then being excited about it in front of a bunch of people who can't afford it?
Whoever started the unboxing trend,
I don't like content creators, I'm gonna say, and I don't mean that. I just so many of them I just don't like.
I get that, you know, that's how they make their living or whatnot. I wish I could go back in time, and whoever started the unboxing trend, I could just be like, stop it. You stop it right now. You're going to cause a problem. We don't need you. Stop it right now. Like, because you're putting a lot of people in financial holes because they think you bought it and they want to be you, and you didn't buy it. you didn't buy it.
You know how like you might kind of cringe at the kid who is acting like his anime character a little too much in public, and he kind of does like the acting like,
we all have met one.
Chill out, man. I watch anime too. Don't make me hate myself too.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about people who make videos about themselves, or a lot of content creators. Not all. There's plenty of good ones, but just the whole look at how great I am and fake, and then I only play. I don't know. I'm just pissy.
This whole thing just got. It's just
everybody. I hate everybody.
I cannot wait for the comments that come under that one, because like every time, at least once, we get "What's up with Warnurse" at this timestamp. He's just like, I hate everyone.
I hate everybody, man.
But
it gets on my nerves. Look at me. Shut up. Fucking
that's
cares.
perfect. I wish I could like thumbnail that. Then look at me. But what do you guys think? Are you getting the PS5 Pro? That's just like a pain in the mouth to say, like PS5 Pro. Are you getting it? Do you think it's justified? Are you one of those people that are just like, well, this goes with the times, you know, and you know, that crowd? What are your thoughts? Is Sony making a smart move? Is Sony making a bad move? What do you think Sony's really up to? Because I don't know anymore. I'm at a loss for words. It was big news that broke this week, so of course we had to cover it. But we would love to hear your thoughts. We actually went over our time on it. It was just so much we could say on this topic alone, but we gotta get up out of here.
Some of the content creators look like they have lead poisoning. I'm gonna say it.
And that is the perfect stopping point right there. Lead poisoning, content creators, Microsoft, it's all your fault. Anyway, you guys have been amazing. Take care of yourself and each other. And we'll catch all of you wonderful people on the next podcast. Later.